There we go.
I'm recording too.
Hey, how'd you do it? Wait, you have to teach the rest of us.
So, how did I do that? If you click participants at the bottom, and then like scroll over someone.
Oh, okay.
And then it gives them the option to like able record, forbid record, put in waiting room, rename, make host, make co-host. Yeah.
Fantastic. And I just learned something new again today. Wow.
Cool. Wait, so do I have to accept something? I don't see what I have to accept.
Oh, are you recording too?
No, I mean, I wasn't going to.
Oh, you're good then. You're good.
Okay, cool.
You don't have to do anything. Yeah.
So just me and Ty will record just in case there's, something goes wrong.
So we're recorded now?
Yes, we are recording.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get started then. What did you guys think about the case study this week? Did you read it the first time we had to read chapter 1?
Yes.
Yes.
You did?
Yeah. I had to go back and look at it again because it'd been a while since I had read it.
Same.
So but I thought it was interesting because there's a bunch of movies about K2 out there, and this one, the actual story of the case study was actually very interesting because Hollywood likes to blow it up and all that kind of stuff and make it super dramatic, and just actually reading it for word and kind of seeing it in a little bit calmer of a setting instead of like with all the all the crazy action. It was kind of an interesting thing because I didn't really realize like how chaotic it was up there. You don't really think about that kind of stuff when you go up into another country and you're trying to do something crazy like this, and there's 20 different languages and nobody understands you, and you're trying to save everybody's life. And then on top of that, I want to know who was the idiot who thought about not bringing enough rope for everybody? Like, who in their right mind was like, this will be enough rope? Like, yeah, right. You have one job and you couldn't even bring rope. Like,
everybody fend for themselves.
There were two things that went horribly wrong regarding the rope. One is that the team that was supposed to set up the fixed line that everybody was going to follow through the bottleneck, they started it too early, right? So they were supposed to use the rope only at a certain point because they had enough rope for just a certain point. They started it too early, which means they ran out of rope towards the end of the section that they actually needed the rope for. And they just decided, this is fine, we'll wing it. And then two is that apparently a lot of people were like, when they planned their expedition, right, they planned it with having the fixed line in place, right? So they had complete and utter reliance on the fixed line. That's it. That was their one plan. And so then when the fixed line wasn't there, they had no backup plan. And
yeah, that's really distressing. Like, I feel like being in that high risk of a situation, they would have, for one, bonded more, at least learned how to communicate, especially with so many different languages, and two, had backup plans, more than one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was horrified when I figured out that they didn't have a backup plan. I was like, you're telling me I have to go into the world's most dangerous mountain with a lot of people I don't know and no backup plan.
Yeah.
Plan A, the only plan A, there wasn't A, plan B, C, D. I mean, you would think anybody that goes even just remotely camping has more than one plan. Like,
yeah.
When you're going camping like a KOA or something, everybody's got a couple plans in place, but they're going up K2 and they had plan A and that was it. Like, who's a genius behind this expedition?
I have no idea, but when I read that, I like just kind of like lost my mind a little bit. I'm a pretty anxious person, right? So you can bet that if I'm doing something new, I'm gonna have like all the way down to like plan M. Okay, we're gonna go through the entire alphabet if necessary, particularly if you're gonna be in a dangerous life or death situation. Like, I'm not gonna go into the world's most dangerous mountain and think this is going to be a walk in the park and I will be fine, know? I'm probably going to bring extra rations, I'm probably going to bring as much rope as I can possibly carry upon my body, maybe a second axe if I can find like a lightweight collapsible one, like something, anything,
Definitely.
I thought was really interesting was when I kind of like more so read it, because a lot of the stuff I read was pretty much like just more in-depth detail of what our book says. But apparently when they decided to make the climb to the top, like, it was a very brief discussion, and they're like, okay, we're going to go. And I'm like, a brief discussion. But that was
a lot of that is, like, weather in that altitude changes so quickly that it's like if you don't go now, you may not be able to go.
No, I didn't even think of that either. I just thought it was weird, like, life or death here. People, I think at this point, people have already died, and they're just like, okay, we're gonna go. And I'm like, it's getting dark. Like,
Right. That was another thing.
There's another thing that comes into play when you're climbing high altitude mountains too, is high altitude sickness.
Yep.
Right. And it actually causes confusion. Like it trips up how your mind thinks and how you like plan things and do things in steps and stuff. Like it actually causes confusion as a symptom of the sickness. Right. And so like I did more research into the case study just to like look it up because it got really interesting, and I started looking up all the details like a nerd. And a lot of people said that several of the deaths were because they suspect that the people who died were beginning to suffer from high altitude sickness, but because it manifests as like fatigue and confusion, both things that you would probably experience being in a new dangerous environment, it didn't immediately click that they're sick, you know? So they just kind of like continued, and then it led to tragedies.
Wow. I had no idea that altitude confused people like that. I had no idea. That makes a lot of sense.
I have more on that too if we get further into the discussion.
Okay, I know there is, she asked us to look up information outside of the book, but do you guys want to go ahead and start with the first question? And Becky, do you want to start, if you don't mind?
Yeah, so, okay, so the first question, I never really been in quite a high-risk situation like this. So I actually thought of two. The first one I thought of was like, in school, like we all had fire drills, and unfortunately most of us probably had active shooter drills. So like I kind of thought more like, obviously in those times those are high risk situations, and like the reason why I guess I would follow what was expected is partly because of legitimate power, because a teacher would tell you what to do, or like somebody official will tell you what to do. And then also in that sense, it's like they do have your best interest and safety in mind. So I thought those were more so the reasons I'd follow it. And then I kind of thought of one that we're all dealing with, which is this whole coronavirus thing. And a lot of it has to do with none of us really know anything about it. So we're trusting like people like the CDC, the government, other health officials, because they have expert knowledge. They understand what's happening. They understand what's going to go on with the virus, how it spreads, and how to keep it safe. And most of these people who are elected, we elect them because they're supposed to have like our best interests. So by doing that, like we trust them, we follow them because of that. So I thought those were kind of two like examples that I could come up with.
That's awesome. I didn't even think of the COVID as an example. That's like spot on, dude.
Well, I just thought of it because I was like, I really don't do anything crazy high risk, and I was like, most of the stuff with high risk stuff, like at my job, I'm usually in charge when something bad happens. So I'm kind of like, I couldn't think of anything besides that. And I was like, wait a minute, like we're all dealing with this right now. And it's
high risk. I've been hearing that word a lot. Oh wait. Yeah. Anybody else want to share their number one answer?
So in my first serving job, I worked in this little vegan restaurant, and it was like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, like dinner had died down. There was nobody in the restaurant. Everything was fine. And then all of a sudden, like somebody came in the back door of the restaurant, and I was cleaning our dining room that was up front. So it's literally a walkway that's like a wraparound. And so my boss comes around the corner and he says, please don't go back there. Something's going on. And I was like, okay, well, what's going on? And he goes, I'll tell you later. And so he walks back away from me, and I'm freaking out, like I'm starting to spaz. And then like he comes back around the corner and he goes, okay, so call the police and just do it. Don't ask questions. Just call the police and get them to our location. State that it's an emergency. Apparently we were being robbed at gunpoint.
Oh.
On like a Thursday afternoon. the whole time I don't know what's going on. I'm just following directions because he's my boss. So he's telling me what to do. And I'm like, yes, okay, done, did it, called him. And apparently our cook just opened the safe and gave him everything that we had in there. And the person who was robbing us was like, there's like nothing in here. And he's like, we don't have money. We're like an independently owned private restaurant, like very small scale. Like there's no money here. And so the person just ran out and ran into these apartments and just left us there. Like nobody got shot, but it was one of those moments where I had no idea what was going on, but my boss told me to do something. And since he's in charge, I have to listen.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was the first thing that came to mind when I thought of a leader who I was forced to trust in a way, because it's like, you can't ask questions.
That's kind of similar to what Becky was saying, and trusting like the government right now and following the rules that they're giving us. Like, we don't really have any other choice if we want to be, keep our jobs, or if we want to be safe, then we have to listen to what the boss is saying. That's crazy though. Oh my gosh.
Rob's a vegan restaurant. Like what? That's the first thing that comes to your option is, I'm gonna go rob a vegan restaurant. Like,
so the naturopathic medicine college was right across the street.
Okay, so now that makes more sense, but the restaurant?
Right? It was like, there's a Burger King right in front of us that probably had way more money.
Oh my gosh.
Did they ever catch him though?
No. They ended up coming back like an hour later, and we shut down right after it happened.
Oh,
they probably took all the money they earned in that independent little small business. Like, that's so messed up.
Yeah.
Dang. Okay. Well, I don't have anything crazy like Ty, but I was 16 years old and I was doing a humanitarian journey down to Ensenada, Mexico. And this was my first time ever away from like my family. Like, this is a big thing. I was going down there to, help the community out. And we weren't staying in the touristy area, Ensenada now that has all the, the cruise ship ports and all this kind of stuff. This is when Ensenada was still like kind of sketchy, like it was one of those destinations that a lot of people didn't go to. And I had never even heard of Ensenada, Mexico up until this particular moment. So we took a bus all the way from Seattle to Ensenada. It's like a 3-day bus trip, and we get to Ensenada, and mind you, 16-year-old me has been very naive and kind of sheltered his entire life up until this point. Never seen military marching down the road. Like, if you've all been to Mexico, you all know that's a very normal thing. That's their police department, the Federale, but they're marching up and down. So I'm like a little freaked out at first. So one of our goals was to go and, clean up the community, clean up parks, help the local church out, whatever we were asked to do, we needed to do. The first day we got there, I saw this, the marching of the police, and we were cleaning up a basketball court. I found, a dead dog underneath boxes, just chilling there, just dirty, nasty. People were sitting there just like wondering what these kids were doing in there. People were just standing around. And mind you, again, I'm 16 years old and I'm just scared out of my mind. Like, at this moment, I'm just scared. Like, I have no idea why I decided to do this. I ultimately was regretting the fact that I had left the comfort of my own home, all that kind of stuff, and the guy who was leading came up to me, and I go, I don't remember you mentioning any of this, how stricken of poverty this place was, like how run down it is, how sketchy it is, just just military marching up and down the street. I'm just scared. And, that was my first, I kind of consider that maybe a high risk for that age, because it was a new experience. It was new to me. Now I've been to Mexico, and, now I see that I'm just like, whatever, I see the military, and it just kind of, it was an eye-opening experience that we take for granted what we have here. We don't have that kind of stuff happening here. And the fact that, when I was down there, I had to deal with just, a community that, looked at us as like we had everything, but we had nothing because we were teenagers. And it was a little bit of a sketchy area we stayed in. You could hear people screaming and hollering outside of our humanitarian bungalow, whatever you want to call it. It was just basically this like concrete slab that barely had running water and a toilet. It was weird.
Do you have any leaders you felt were like safe?
Yeah. So with the going to the leader, he came over to me one night, and he just kind of saw that I was distraught, and he came over and asked me what was wrong, and I had just kind of told him I don't understand why we're here. I don't know why you led us here. I don't understand why there was, we weren't given a forewarning of what all this was, and he talked, and we probably talked for a good hour or so about everything, but the fact that, right off the bat, I questioned who he, as soon as we got there, I questioned who he was and why he did this, because I don't remember him being very upfront and honest about how bad the conditions were going to be. And, obviously he put my mind at ease, but, right off the bat, that was kind of, to me, it was kind of a risky situation because I had no idea what we were getting into.
I feel like we learned about this week about that kind of followership. Do you guys remember? I think it was the type of approach you take as a follower, like.
Yeah, I do remember reading.
I know there was lots of different examples, but like.
Yeah.
Follow communication styles, like alienated, conformist, pragmatic, passive. That.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's good to question as a follower, and I think it helps you make more sense of situations, so you can choose for yourself whether you want to be following those people or not. So.
Oh. Yeah.
It definitely sounds high risk. Like I don't know. I'd probably be a little afraid too.
Isn't that like what is it? Exemplary followership, where it's like questioning based on a courageous conscience.
Yes.
Ethical judgments. I'm like, I know this is in here. I can't remember the first word.
There's a lot this week.
Yeah.
It was.
Melissa, what was your number one?
Okay, so I'm sure that everybody remembers from our group text that I'm pretty much just like, I don't know how to explain to you guys that I guess I just live a very like sheltered, lucky life, that I don't find myself in high risk situations very much. I'm a very anxious person, and it manifests a lot as paranoia most of the time, right? So generally, if like I get anxious or paranoid about a situation, I just don't go into said situation, right?
Smart.
I opt out, like my friends could probably be like, we're gonna go to this cliff. I'd be like, I heard people fall off that cliff. I'm not going. Like that's just kind of me. And so like it was bothering me for the longest time. I don't know if you guys remember, but I was constantly texting, I can't think of anything, right? And I was thinking and thinking and thinking. And I still couldn't really come up with any like high risk situation I experienced personally that I had to follow a leader in. Generally, by the time it becomes a high risk situation, I'm the only one left in said situation. So I am both my own leader and my own follower at that point.
Lone wolf.
So I don't really know how applicable those situations would be. And so I guess I pretty much defaulted into one of my hobbies, which is playing video games on the computer. And I know Ty is familiar with one of them, but for everybody else, I do play the game called League of Legends. It's pretty much a battle arena game where you and 9 other strangers get placed into an arena. You're teamed up, so you're split into 2 teams. So there's a team of 5 strangers and then a team of you with 4 strangers, right? 5 against 5. And you just immediately have to band together as a team and as a group and coordinate your efforts to try to defeat the other team, right? So like this is plenty of opportunity for emergent leaders to make their appearance. And because it is a game where you do kill other people and other people kill you, right? You do get put into high risk situations where you have to make split second decisions. It's like, what do we do to win this game, to survive, to not die? And that's pretty much all I could really come up with when it came to following somebody's lead in a high risk situation. You know, like sometimes one bad play could end the game. Like sometimes you're just one bad play away from defeat or victory. And you'll see that like some people will step up. Some people will come out, be a leader, and be like, okay, this is what we need to do. This is how the map is. If we can just get this one thing, we'll win the game, you know? And generally, depending on how they communicate that with us, will determine whether or not I trust this person's call, you know? Like, there are very many angry gamers out there who will yell, who will cuss, who will absolutely abuse you to their fullest potential, using every key on their keyboard possible to tell you that you're an idiot. Okay? And
like, yeah, I'm not gonna follow that one.
Exactly, you know? So then it makes it very hard to follow those kind of leaders, where they're trying to lead you because they think they know what they're doing, but they're translating their thought and behavior poorly. They, you know, kind of cut relations with you in a sense. And so then now, you know, out of anger, bitterness, pettiness, spitefulness, you just don't want to do what they're telling you to do. And sometimes even if it is something that is a good plan that they have, because of how they behave, you just kind of refuse to follow the plan anyways. Sometimes you can put aside the pride and be like, okay, this person's literally calling me an idiot, but they have a good plan. Let's just do it to try to achieve our unanimous goal of winning this game. But sometimes it doesn't work out that way. Sometimes you just cannot follow this kind of leader. And communication falls apart, coordination falls apart, game falls apart, you lose. Move on to the next one. And so for me, like how I determine whether or not the person making the calls is worthy of my trust literally just comes down to their communication. Sometimes I do take into consideration how good they are at the game, right? Because in League of Legends, there's the team score, but then there's also individual score that you can look at. And sometimes, you know, some people are just really good and some people are just really bad, and that's okay, right? And so sometimes I will take a look at the score and be like, is this person doing well in the role that they're playing, in the responsibilities that they have in this game already? Because in the game, when you're working as a team, everybody does have their own responsibility that they have to take care of. And if they're capable of taking care of that responsibility, then they're probably capable of taking care of all of us as a whole, right? But sometimes I will put my trust in somebody's judgment call based more on how they communicate versus their score. Like I could be having the better score than they do in terms of our individual points, but if they have been communicating with me spectacularly the entire game, then I'd be like, all right, you want to try this? I'll give it a shot, you know?
That makes complete sense. Like it comes down to communication style, but I also feel like you were saying like you don't get yourself into high risk situations because you take a very like statistical approach as far as like, is this worth getting into or not, you know? I think that's really smart though. Yeah. And your example turned out to be really good. Like I know at first you're like, so that makes complete sense.
I spent like 3 days thinking about this. I was still thinking about this in the shower that I took this morning to prepare for this meeting. I was like, come on, Mimo, there has to be something that happened in your life. I like asked my boyfriend, my very long-term boyfriend, we've been dating for a lot of years. I was like, honey, we practically live side by side. There has to be something we've experienced, right?
No, low key, when Ty was telling us about his experience, I was like, oh my gosh, he followed Nemo's boyfriend's advice and is making this up right now. There's no way.
I still can't believe my boyfriend. He couldn't come up with anything either. He was just like, just lie, Nemo. And I'm like, no. And he's like, you're too honest. And I'm like, I like being honest.
The sad thing is mine actually happened.
Like, for real, that's crazy.
Like, that's the crazy part. Like, unfortunately for me, it seems like anything that could be considered high risk that I'm involved in with other people, I seem to be kept out of the loop, if that makes sense. Like, generally the leader like tries to maintain this like sense of calm, and so they're just like, okay, if we keep this hush hush, we deal with this as quietly as possible, we do not disrupt the workflow, basically, you know. So then I don't get informed that anything even happened until after everything's been resolved. So it's like, there was a high risk situation, but I wasn't in it, I was out of it, and then the high risk situation went away. So that's it. I got video games on my back.
Okay, I'll share mine. It took a while for me to come up with this as well, but I finally landed on a situation I was in. I was little. My mom used to take, so I'm the youngest of 5, and my mom used to take us hiking a lot. And so I grew up mostly in Arkansas, and there's this place called Devil's Den. So we would go caving out there, and it used to be where you could go into the caves, like you were allowed to explore in them. It's not that way anymore, but we ended up running into this group of cavers who my mom knew through the college she went to. And they were very experienced cavers. So it was like my mom, all of my siblings, and a couple of our friends. So it was a big group of kids. And they wanted to take us through this thing called the Devil's Ice Box, which is a super like intense caving thing. Like, you have to like, so it's all pitch dark, and you know, you like fit through narrow spaces where like if you were to fall, then you're falling into a hole, like a deep like 5-6 foot drop. And to a little girl, I was probably like 8 or so. I mean, I was like, this is high risk business. Like, this is crazy. But the reason I was all about it was my mom trusted those people, and I trusted my mom. So it was a pretty easy way to judge that. So yeah.
You already have that previous relationship. You know you can trust her.
Yep. Now, would I have done that today? Maybe not, but no.
Well, I can tell you right now, I probably wouldn't. I'd be like,
Right.
strangers trying to take me to a scary place? No, thank you.
Ended up being really fun. So yeah. Okay, number 2. Have you ever been the leader in a high-risk activity, and how did you approach it? Any takers?
So before we go on, I'm sorry to cut you off. So Microsoft Word just froze on me. So can we just make sure we upload this to YouTube? Because I'm your note taker.
Yeah.
I don't I just like, for some odd reason, like I don't want to leave the meeting and turn off my computer and turn it back on. Just like wanted to communicate that, like,
Yeah.
before like an actual issue happens. I don't know why it froze. It has a little like timer thing going. So I'm like, okay, like,
We'll post it. Don't worry.
okay, thank God. I was getting nervous. I was like, I don't know what to do.
We got your back.
All right. Anyway, but I will go for your second question for you. So one of mine were, again, it's not like crazy high risk like a lot of you guys, your stories, but at my job, we have a lot of issues with our registers. So one day I noticed like one just like shut off in the middle of a transaction, and I was like, that's weird. But I was like, okay, hey, can you just like, you know, assign a till to the one next to you? And the girl was like, I already tried doing that, but that one's frozen. And I'm like, okay, like that's weird. Like usually just one kind of goes down every once in a while. And then the girl at drive-thru goes to me, just so you know, she's like, I can't type in any orders on the screen. And I'm like, oh my God, like all the registers just went down, including the one. So we have 2 registers at our drive-thru. One is to take orders and place them, and one is to take money. And then the other girl goes, oh, the one to take the money and process the transaction just stopped working. And I'm like, I'm on bar, like, oh, we're having a good day. And I'm like, just kidding. So I guess in that aspect, like that's kind of one of the more high risk things, because all of a sudden, like I had a group of 9 people who were like, Becky, what do we do? Because they were like, we can't process any transactions. And I'm like, I just like froze because I was like, this has never happened. So as a leader, the first thing I did was I kind of just checked in with the team because they were all like, you could visibly tell they were confused, some were frustrated, some were trying to take charge and just like they start writing cups. But the problem is we're a sticker store, and that means most of my partners don't know how to write cups. So I kind of like checked in with them, and once they were like, yeah, we're fine, I was like, okay, well, everything is free now because we can't stop waiting on people while I try to figure out this, like what's going on. So I kind of more so took it upon myself to be like, okay, like, you know, these people know how to write cups. They've been here for years. So I just kind of started assigning roles and delegating new tasks, which involved a lot of moving around. And I kind of excused myself and ran the floor like a person short so I could kind of move to where needed. And like, if I had to call it in, I could, but as I'm sure Sammy knows because she works in a store, calling for support is like, you're on hold for like 30 minutes. It's all. So I kind of was like, okay, like, let's just try to restart the computers. And I assigned a role. And as I'm doing this, I'm like, kind of checking in, making sure whoever knows how to read cups and write cups are all like scattered throughout so they can help the newer partners who maybe don't know what M means on a cup, which is a mocha, or don't know what CH means, or, you know, the different abbreviations. And so in that time, like, I'm kind of still checking in, like making sure they're not like too overwhelmed because it is stressful because customers, believe it or not, demand to pay. Like, I see that side because I feel like you might have been there too.
I have been in this exact situation, and let me tell you, the leader did not do it as smoothly as what you're describing. It was nothing like that.
I felt like if I just kind of took myself out of the play, I could make myself more available because I mean, I've been a partner for almost 10 years. I left for like a year in between there because I was like, I'm gonna go work with kids, but that was great. But I decided I liked Starbucks better because teenagers weren't having fun. So I told my mom I was sorry for being a teenager. But pretty much I assigned in the rules and I kind of explained to them why it was important and like, you know, you might think me moving you to register, I think you're like a bad employee. Well, no, actually now you're the most important one because you're the only one who knows how to write the cups. So like it kind of like stewed that over, and by doing that I was able to like get all the registers back up, make sure people were served, deal with customers who were kind of complaining that they couldn't pay, and I was like, it's free. It's literally getting you free stuff. So I mean, that is more so like how I kind of dealt with it, because I felt like if I had a strong team and the team could trust me and know that I cared about them and like how they're feeling, like they were more able to succeed than instead of I'm just like, I don't know. So I found like dealing with my team and putting all my focus on them and then the problem and the solution, it kind of helps set the ground to know like, hey, like we're all in this together. Like I just need to go figure out now what's happening. And then allowed us to get the registers back up quicker because I didn't have to keep dealing with people who didn't know what to do. So that was my high risk. Luckily, I haven't had anything.
That was a great example.
Honestly, like I feel like you just being in that situation, literally, like I have been in that exact situation. All the registers went down. You couldn't, yeah. I mean, just the exact same situation. And my leader did not delegate like how you explained that you did. And it was a complete disaster. So absolute kudos to you. Like, and you're right. I mean, it is like, you have to know, like people are all counting on you. You're in charge of an entire store. And it's like,
it was definitely, I hope to God it never happens again because it is rough. Like it's not obviously it's not a fun time, but it wasn't like an easy, like, oh, one register shut down, like here, go to another one. It was all of them and everyone's like, now what?
right.
I'm like,
Like A+ for stepping up and handling the situation, you know?
Yeah.
Like the ship was sinking and you grabbed the wheel. Like
my store manager was there and she was always kind of like, no one really listened to her. She was an old store manager and I actually turned to her. I'm like, her name is Becky too, or was Becky because she's not there anymore. And I looked at her. I'm like, what do you want me to do? She's like, she like kind of stared at me, and I was like, okay. I was like, I'm just gonna fix this. And then she had the nerve to go, well, it's your shift. I'm like, you're my boss. Like, help me. Like, help me control. So I just kind of like picked her to the register because like she was also with the company for a while. I'm like, okay. I'm like, you got to deal with these customers because like you're authority and they're gonna have questions and be mad. So, but I was just like, I don't know how to do this. I'm not good at technology. But
Yeah, even your boss was looking to you, dude. That's awesome.
yeah, I was
mean-
like, well, she even said, she goes, you've been in this store for like, she's like, you've been in this store longer than me, and I'm like, okay.
You get paid more than me.
Then when she didn't take charge, and I was like, okay, like I'm just gonna do this because I know how to like deal with these computers because they're an older model and like they don't like to cooperate. I was just like, thank God they all got back up because she's like, oh, just call tech support. I'm like, and stay on hold? Like, no, we're just gonna restart them and see what happens once we restart them. Luckily that worked. It just took about a half an hour because they're really slow. But we got there. So.
But hey, like things worked out and you did spectacularly.
Yes.
Yeah. And then like I have a similar situation, but it was kind of like the opposite problem. Like the machines were fine, the people were not.
Oh.
People are so worse.
Which I mean, like, I don't know, you guys could think it's worse, you guys could think it's better. It just really depends on perspective at that point. But I worked in the corporate business events industry for a long time, right? So think about like conventions, large scale conferences that people would like literally fly into your city for, right? Because that's their trade, that's their career. And there was a conference for like dental surgeons, like specifically just dental surgeons. Okay. And I had been scheduled as a floater that day, which, you know, is kind of like an invisible position because you're literally just there to like fill a spot if somebody like isn't able to. But I do get slotted that position often, being a jack of all trades. So they know they could put me anywhere and I would make it work, right? So I came in, I was like, oh, it's gonna be easy day. I got scheduled as floater. I'm pretty much gonna stand around and do nothing. Okay. And so if you've ever been to a convention or conference, you know that there's badge pickup. You literally go to a person with a computer, show your ID, get your badge, and then go on your merry way, right? What they had done for this specific conference was that the client, the people who actually owned the conference, decided they were gonna hire a whole temp team to come in and be those register workers, the ones that take the audience members' IDs and then give them their badge and stuff, right? Which is fine. But they literally scheduled about 45 minutes of program training for these temps on the first day of work. So like first day, you're literally going to be taking people, like there are people lining up outside that door waiting for those doors to open to come in so they can get their badge so that they can go do their conference things. And you're here and you're new and you're gonna have to learn how to use computers, you're gonna have to learn the policies, you're gonna have to learn how to use the program, you're gonna have to learn how to add people, delete people, change info, everything. Okay, but you'll be fine, you got this, right? And initially they had put me in a different department and then literally halfway through the training for that department that I was partaking in, they're like, oh, actually we need you in the other department. And I was like,
Come on.
cool. Go over to other department having missed the first half of the training. So out of all the people in this department, if anything, I should be the one that knows the least, right? So then training completes, they get 15 minutes to practice with the program before they open up the doors. And I pretty much lean over to one guy who like looked like he was diligently practicing rather than just kind of like chit-chatting with other people. And so I asked him a couple questions regarding the things I did miss. I was like, okay, what about this? What about this? How do they want us to handle these things? And he just answered a couple of them. And I was like, okay, cool, thanks. Step back. And then people started coming in. And then the temps pretty much start panicking. Everybody's like, oh my God, that's a lot of people. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do this. What is this program? What do I do? How do I input this information? And then I was pretty much like, oh no, it's fine, just click here, you know? And then the person next to them would be like, wait, Mimosa, how do I do this? I'd be like, oh no, that's fine, just click here, you know? And suddenly, because of those actions, everybody else around them started coming to me to ask the questions. It's like, mimosa, mimosa. And then suddenly it just became a whole row of people on registers. I'll be like, mimosa? And I'm like, I'll be right with you. You're my third person. I'll talk to you right after Sarah, blah, 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 this and that. And immediately I just kind of like had to go in and put out these like mini fires. And it's, I don't know if I could constitute as high risk, because the like most troubling part would just be that the person trying to get their badge would have to wait a little bit longer for the person on the register to like figure out how to input their information. But everybody was just panicking, and I'm like, don't panic, you're fine, you know, like you're just typing in names, clicking on check boxes that you need to check, and then the badge prints out, you stick it into a sleeve and you hand it to them. You've got this. And that's pretty much the only time I've ever really been a leader in a high risk activity. And ironically, at one point, they said another department needed more help than that current department, because they didn't realize that this current department was literally on fire. So then I got moved over. And as I walked away, you got to witness everybody just turn and look at me and be like, where is she going? She has to come back here. And then about 20 minutes away from that department, they called me back to the department. It's like, nah, you gotta stay here. And I was like, yeah, I kind of figured. And then, I mean, other than that, I could also relate it back to League of Legends too, where sometimes there's no leader that steps up, and then I have to. Somebody has to make the call. Somebody has to be like, all right, we have one more play to make. We either win, we either lose, you know, like if I make a bad call, I own up to it. I apologize. It's like, I'm sorry, should have made that call. All of us freaking died. Maybe we'll be able to salvage this game. And then if I make a good call, we win and we celebrate, and then we move on to the next. But that's it. That's pretty much all I do, is I just step up if I'm the last person available, is the thing. I don't typically step up if I feel like there's somebody else that could handle the situation. If somebody else can do it, I would gladly push it over to them. You know, I am very subservient in that manner. I do not like responsibility. So I'm like, that's okay. You can tell me what to do. I'll go do it. But if it comes down to it, if I'm the only person there, if we're on a sinking ship and I'm the only one that knows how to swim, then I guess it's up to me, guys. But yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
That's, dude, come on. I don't know. That's like a lot. I feel like you had a billion people in your ear, but you were able to help them all.
Thankfully. I still don't know how I did it, but.
Sounds like you kept your calm.
I mean, it kind of helped that I had worked with similar programs in the past, you know? So it's like, I kind of already knew it, you know? But at that point, it was like trying to make sure everybody else knew it. And a lot of them were like new temps. So it was like their first job. So they had like not only like anxiety and nervousness about working with a new program, but just like being a worker for the first time probably adds an extra layer of anxiety into that, you know? So it was just a lot of like calming like children down, you know? It's like, no, you're fine, you got this, like, good job.
Nice, dude. All right, which one?
I'll go.
All right.
Okay, so I this is number 3, right?
No, this is still number 2.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, sorry, I got lost there for a second. Okay, so honestly, I can say that I have not been a leader in a high-risk situation, to be transparent. I have been a supervisor and a lead in the past, but I've never been in anything really bad. The one thing that came to my mind was when I was at this one job when I was younger. It was a ink milling place. Basically, the ink on your T-shirts and stuff like that is the product they produce. Plastols, all that kind of weird stuff. I was pretty new to the company, and one of our customers is a very particular customer. They I don't know how they did it or how they saw the differences in the ink that we would send to them, but they were very particular. They would take the ink and they would dip pipe in it to show off if it was blue or if it was a hot line. for hot water or cold wine. So the blue was very particular for them, and they would take, you know, plastic pipes, dip it in blue, and then that's how they knew it was a water line. Well, I came in one day and and there's just a very specific recipe to make this particular color. And I came in, and to the naked eye, you wouldn't have noticed the difference in the color of the blue. But our leader had put less blue into the mixture and was just going to send it off and ship it off to this customer. Now, mind you, this customer was 25% of our business. That's how much money he brought in, how much product he bought, how much stuff he did. And they were, like I said, very particular, very, very particular customer. And I was reading over the recipe, and I had noticed that there was bags of blue missing. And I mean, again, to the naked eye, you wouldn't have noticed, but this customer would have eventually. You know, it just would have came down to it eventually. They've been known to do this stuff and send it back, and okay. So I asked him, I go, hey, what's going on here? Why are we finishing up this product and we don't have enough of this particular recipe correct? He's like, well, yeah, we're out of the pigment, so we have to use what we have, and we have to get this product out to this customer. And I'm like, but aren't we supposed to get it out correct? Like, even if we don't have enough, we have to wait like until we get more, because I know we have a shipment coming in next week, and I know this guy needs this stuff, but he's not going to want this stuff. You know, we're going to waste money. We're going to lose money on this. And he's like, oh, we're just going to send it out, you know, deal with the repercussions later, cross the bridge, that kind of stuff. I'm like, what? What? Like, we can't do this. So I had to, being a new guy, and nobody wanted to question this guy because it was just one of those kind of bosses that you just don't question what they do. The lead was just kind of one of those, it's my way, the highway, blah, 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 blah. So I was like, no, we're not going to do this because we're all going to get in mass trouble. Like, it's just not going to go over well. So I went to QA, I went to quality and showed him the recipe and showed him what happened. They got involved. The owner got involved, the company I worked for got involved, and one thing led to another. The high risk situation that came about was the guy lost his mind because I had narked him out. He lost his job because of this, and just lost it. Like, he lost his mind. And here I am, this new guy, basically narking on the lead, and I guess is the way you wanted it, the way they called it, you know, and he left by like slamming doors, throwing his steel-toed boots, like just like acting like he was a kid, like throwing a temper tantrum, you know, wanted to come after me because of this and that and whatever. Like, so he left, and of course, who did they appoint to as the lead ink miller after that? The newest guy of the team. And so now I'm the guy known as the guy who got the guy fired, and things just never clicked after that. So my high risk situation was just dude losing his cool, not doing the right product, and I was now, you know, I got labeled as the as warehouse people call it, narking out, you know, the narc, whatever. And but needless to say, I think I'd rather have that title and have that kind of reputation than sending out a product to a customer, and the customer that pays for probably 25% of our paychecks, we lose them over something stupid like that. So yeah, that was my
goal was to do your job to the best.
Do my job and do it right. Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Heck yeah, dude, way to go, honestly. Because I know that's hard to do, to stand up to people when you're new like that.
Oh, it's the worst. It really is.
I feel like it's still hard even if you've been with a company for a while, because nobody wants to be like the tattletale or the narc. They just, like, that is hard to go against the grain.
Yeah. That's why people do groupthink.
Yeah.
Oh, hey.
Hey.
But wait till we get later on. I have a great group think thing.
All right, Ty, lay it on us.
So the only note that I took for this, because it pertains to an entire story, is you stabbed someone because of anaphylactic shock. So in one of our restaurants in the airport, there's a specific salad where you have to ask the question, there's nuts in the salad. oh, guess who didn't tell someone? And it's my coworker who's relatively new, and she didn't know, so honest mistake. But she even wrote allergy in the system, brought it out to the table. Customer freaks out, says, I can't have nuts, I'm allergic. She brought it back to the kitchen. The kitchen just took the nuts off salad.
Oh no!
Mind you, the entire time that this is going on, this is my first restaurant within the airport that I had worked in, and my boss was missing in action for 2 to 3 hours a day. So he's gone. She doesn't ask questions. She just takes it back out to the table. The woman starts eating it, and all of a sudden my coworker comes up to me and she goes, you know what you're doing. You're the most senior person here. Is there a way that you can go talk to this woman just to make sure she's okay? Like, there was a salad incident. I walk over to the table and the woman is bright red, gasping for air, freaking out, pulling things, throwing things out of her suitcase. And all the people around her are freaking out and kind of crowding around her. And
oh my God.
I had to walk up and immediately go, please, everyone, give her some space. Back up. Everybody back up. Coworker, a different girl came running up and she goes, what am I supposed to do? And I'm like, so I need you to go to the back and call 911. They're going to send the people from the airport safety to come help us deal with this. And I look at the woman and I go, do you have an EpiPen? And she's like, yeah. She's like, all I hear is, hey!
Oh my God.
And I kind of like, I grabbed her and I just sit down and I started ripping through her stuff. Like, everything is everywhere. Everyone's around the restaurant is standing and watching this just panic. Get to the bottom of the suitcase. There's a little bag. I pull out the EpiPen and the woman goes, and she looks at it and I go, can you give this to yourself? And she's like, and then starts to like turn a different shade and is like about to pass out. And I'm like, okay, EpiPen, it's not direct thigh, it's a little to the right so it doesn't cause severe bruising, and it doesn't. And I'm like thinking, and I'm like, I'm only CPR certified, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, I look at her and I go, can I give you the shot? And she's like, and I was like, everybody saw that. And I and I stabbed her with it, gave her the shot, and then like you can see she's gaining a little color slowly. The 911 people have officially showed up with their stretcher and everything. And my boss is still MIA. And I'm giving a full report to these police officers. Everyone in the restaurant is like staring. And the cop goes, well, who gave her the shot? Me. Who gave her the food? Her. Well, were you aware that there was an allergy? I'm writing the full report for them because I was the one in charge. I didn't know.
That's crazy.
All of a sudden, I'm finalizing all the reports and everything, and they're like, you have to write an incident report for your company. And I was like, yeah, I don't have access to that because I'm not the adult. And they were like, you just handled a medical emergency, but you're not the adult. And the cop just goes, well, who am I supposed to call? And I was like, we're SSP, so you need to call Tommy up at the front office. And he goes, well, who's your manager on duty? And I was like, it's Jeff, but he hasn't been here in 2 hours. All of a sudden comes strolling along with a Starbucks coffee from the other side of the airport is my boss.
Wow.
Tell me your company didn't get sued for that.
Oh, cook got fired. Girl, because the server did follow all the specifications. The cook got fired because he ended up putting nuts on it and just taking them off. But the company didn't actually get sued. I didn't get in trouble. I got talked to because their exact words were, why were you acting as a manager?
Because there was no manager there.
You were gonna just they were more concerned about you acting as a manager than saving somebody's life.
Yep. And then like 3 or 4 days later, they have like it's the airport system of recognition. So the town mayor came in with the chief of airport police, pulled me out into the hallway, took like pictures, and were like, congratulations, thank you so much for your amazing service. Like what you did goes above and beyond everything. And then I got a call apologizing from our upper management because they treated me like I was like somehow in the wrong.
Yeah.
The woman didn't end up suing, but the next time she came through the airport, she stopped, walked up to me and just hugged me, like flung herself on me and started crying.
Because you saved her life.
I was like,
died.
I just remember everybody around me was just staring, and I'm like, all I know is I've had to stab myself before, so.
Oh
Dude,
my
they
God.
should have had you on that mountaintop, and they have gone a different way.
Like, you fucking handled it.
That's
You know?
insane.
Yeah.
I was like, this is not a joke. This is serious. It's time to like buckle up. And of course, me in my head, I'm like, adrenaline's pumping, so I didn't even like take any account into the thought of it. But as soon as I stabbed her, I kind of got woozy because I was like, blood, no.
Oh.
Dude, that's so gnarly, honestly. Okay, guys, I just I want to reevaluate really quickly because I know we have a time frame that we need to finish this on.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's an hour to 45 minutes. Is that correct?
I think so.
So
Yeah.
we're already reached an hour. So these next questions, I want it to go in order. This is just based off my computer screen. So Ty, Mimosa, Becky, Charles, then me. And we're just going to give our answers. And then I, as the leader, am going to try to relate the answers to what you guys said as a whole, because that's the instructions I was given to do. Does that sound good to everybody?
Yeah. Did you
Sounds
wait?
great.
Did you share with me for number 2 though, Sammy?
Oh, yes. Yeah, let me answer number 2. Thank you, Becky. Okay, so this is really, compared to Ty's, this is just crappy, but this is
I
my
have
high.
the wildest stories for today.
Dude, I know.
Can
We
I
all
just say that?
Bad. Oh my gosh. Okay, so my high risk activity that I was the leader in was sneaking out of the house in high school. That's the best I could think of. That's the most high risk leadership I've ever been a part of. And it took a lot of planning and careful communication and really good timing. So.
Hey,
Did
perfect.
you successfully sneak out?
Oh yeah. But
You're good.
the only time I'll get caught is when my older siblings, who of course have done their fair share of sneaking out, would tattle on me. So
That's
Oh,
what siblings
Yeah.
are
they
for.
tattled?
Yeah.
yes. Unless
Yeah.
they were the ones sneaking me out, you know, it was just messed up. It wasn't right. But yeah. Okay, so number 3, Ty, will you start it? And then Mimosa, Becky, Charles, and me.
Got it.
Cool.
The only situation I've ever put myself in that potentially risked my danger was I would work 21-hour shifts, drinking only coffee, taking Adderall, and not eating all day. So I did that 2 days in a row and ended up like dying on the 3rd day and ended up with the flu for like 2 weeks.
Ooh.
Dang.
You pushed yourself a little too hard there, Ty.
Yep, always do.
Have you done it again? Have you done that again?
Yes. A couple times. All I think, like when there's money in sight, I'm like, okay.
Oh man, Ty. Was the money worth it?
Yeah, always.
I mean, you did it again, so it had to be, right? Oh man. Okay, so for me, I don't know. Again, I guess I could always relate this back to video games. So sometimes when you're playing League, right? There's 5 enemies on the other team. But sometimes one of them gets really, really low on health, and despite the fact that the other 4 of their teammates are full health and will very likely kill you, your goal of trying to kill that really low health person overrides everything else. And you go for it anyways. You're like, I may die, but I'm taking that person with me. And you see it happen so often on League of Legends. So often. Somebody gets super kill hungry. They see it. You know it's going to go wrong. You know it's a bad trade. You know that maybe even that person will drag down the rest of the team because everybody else will try to follow up. You know, everybody else will try to be a good teammate and try to help and then end up as collateral damage. And I've lost games because of that before, where somebody's like, I want that person no matter what. And they go for it. And then everybody just like subsequently dies trying to help that person out of that situation. And then when everybody's dead, nobody can defend and we lose the game. And like, I will admit, I've also been in that position myself where it's like, oh man, I really want that. And sometimes, like, the problem with that is that sometimes it is worth it. You know, sometimes despite the fact that they have 4 teammates who are full health and will kill you, sometimes the one person that is super low health and therefore quote unquote easy to kill is a really high priority target. Like, you kind of know that they're like the one leading their team, right? So it's kind of like if you take out the leader, you take out the team. And so then sometimes it can be worth it, but you still have to play it right. Because if you go in and you don't manage to kill them, then you completely lost the trade. You didn't even get any benefit back from it, you know? And so sometimes the danger and the risk is worth it. But to prevent a complete and utter loss from occurring, I think it really just comes down to being able to like weigh your pros and cons. Like, I know it's like split-second decision making, but you have to think. You know, like, put on your critical thinking hat, think super hard, think super fast. Is this worth it? Do you have any out if you go into this danger? Because if you have no out, chances are it's not going to be worth it. Like, even if they are a super high priority target, if you cannot think of a single escape route, probably not worth it. Don't do it. But, you know, maybe sometimes your team has your back and maybe you do have an escape route planned and maybe it'll work.
Okay, so is it me or is it Becky next on your,
Becky was next in line.
Me? Okay. So my story is kind of actually similar to Ty's. Like a few years ago, I actually worked at a children's home, and I decided that it did not pay me enough. So in that time is when Starbucks launched a whole like SCAP program with, you know, ASU Online. So I was kind of like already looking, exactly, yeah, right. So I was like, oh, like I should go back to school because I dropped out, and I was like, I'm ready now. Like, I'm older, I'm ready to handle it. Like, let's go. And at the time, I was also like struggling with rent, and I was like, I guess I do need a second job. So I was like really good friends with a lot of the people in my store. So I applied online. The manager literally, I came in, he goes, this is your pay rate, you start this day. Like, there was no interview, there was no nothing. I was like, okay, cool. Now, he knew I worked a second job, but he was like, do you need benefits? And I was like, eventually the goal was to quit the children's home, but I was like, not now, but you know, eventually down the line I will. And he goes, okay, we'll schedule you 20 hours a week. And I was like, well, that's not terrible, only working 60 hours. Well, joke was on me because you don't work just 40 hours at the children's home. Like, you're scheduled 40 hours, but like at the end of the day, if I left the week with 50 hours, like, I was lucky. And now, mind you, I was only supposed to work 20 hours at Starbucks. I probably worked closer to 25 to 30. So I didn't want to complain. So like the first like 2 weeks, I was like, oh, this isn't so bad. And then suddenly like I started getting like sick and tired and frustrated. And like you just saw my mood go from like, oh, happy Becky to like, get out of my way. And it was affecting like everything. But like I was like, oh, like all this money, like I have spending money. Like I know what that is now. So I kind of let that take over until I got so sick I ended up missing both of my jobs for like a week and a half because I was just, whatever I got, like, would not go away. Through that, I learned, and roughly around that time is when I became eligible for benefits. So I kind of learned my lesson. I gave my notice at the children's home and I was like, you know what? I still need a full-time job. He can give me 40 hours. He was already talking about promoting me to a supervisor. So I was like, you know what? Like, it's time. This is no longer worth getting sick and the destruction of my mental health. So I kind of learned that lesson, and that I need to, you know, have a work-life balance and just be a little bit broke now. So I learned my lesson that way, and I learned to not overdo it and to know my limits and when to say no. So, but that's about as high risk as I think I've gotten with destroying myself.
Saying no is hard, but I'm glad you did it for yourself. You know.
Yeah, it was not worth being sick for that long. I was like, wow, this is insane.
And also having it like affect your mood like every day, having work so much all the time. I've been in that situation too.
Yeah, it just was not. And like dealing with like troubled teenagers was, I mean, that's already a stressor as it is. And I was like, you know what? I can't. And like I was maybe 24. So like I wasn't much older than these kids. So like I could keep up, but I was like, no, like it's time to leave.
Yeah.
Now, Charles, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, very simple. I have definitely done stuff like this, whether it's not abiding by company policies or that have been put into place for safety precautions. As other Starbucks people probably know that. I don't know if you guys know how strict our plants are about safety and stuff like that, but it's pretty hardcore. So I have definitely broken the rules when coming to other work and at Starbucks. You do stupid things, putting yourself at risk, like, not wearing your correct PPEs when you're going into certain areas, trying to speed things up, like climbing racks without a forklift to get the product because the forklift takes too long or something like that. You're putting your own personal life in danger when you're doing this. You get the job done better, and it looks like you're order picking much faster. So I've done that stuff many times, and that's my high risk one, is just doing stupid stuff like that, going up and to the top of the racks, grabbing the product because I couldn't find a forklift, and climbing down and just moving along, walking out into forklift lanes without my protectors on, or reflectors on, just not wearing my steel toes when I'm supposed to be, lying about, yeah, these are steel toes, like, yeah, just things like that. So that's my high risk, and what I would do differently is just abide by the rules, because your job, your safety is more. You need to go to work and leave work the same person. You don't need to be losing fingers, losing toes, losing your mind, going to the doctor, not coming home to your family. And that's just, I've had to learn that over the years. It's just, nothing's more important than going home the way you came into work.
So, side note to that, actually, I actually follow the rules because, as I told you guys how I hurt my knee and dislocated it. Usually I climb the metro racks to get the stuff on the top shelf. But this time, I kind of took notice. I was like, wow, these shelves are really empty. I probably shouldn't climb it. So in the process of trying to get a ladder and turning around is actually when I fell. And the joke was with my manager. I was like, Misty, I did the right thing and I got hurt. I'm like, what if I just would have climbed it?
Did you tell us that to begin with? Because I imagined you scaling that thing.
You never mentioned that.
Because I was usually when I'm sure when there's nothing on these shelves, they move.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the one climbing like this and then suddenly it tips. So I was like, I better just get the ladder, because our orders all changed. Somehow we got them different days, so we kept running out of things, and I was like, oh, better get the ladder and not tip the metro shelf. So I followed the rules and got hurt. However, obviously if I told them I was climbing and got hurt, I'm pretty sure they would be like, well, that's your fault, you didn't follow the rules. So no, you're still right, but I thought it was kind of ironic, I followed the rules and I somehow managed to dislocate my knee.
Becky.
It was just not your day that day, Becky.
My day. I should have known something would have gone wrong when the other opener didn't show up, but like I followed the rules and I did. But you know what though? Now I can at least say like nobody questioned me. Everything actually went smoothly with
Mm-hmm.
and getting help because they're like, you followed the rules. There's nothing you could have done differently. You didn't climb the rack. Because they actually asked me if I climbed to get to the top shelf. That was one of their questions. I was like, no. I was like, the shelf was empty, and I didn't tell them I usually do, but I was like, no. I was like, I would never do that. The shelves are empty, so I don't want to tilt it. But yeah, so I was like, everything went smoother because I followed the rules. So.
It's messed up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at your pain. I'm just laughing because I don't know how many times I've done stupid things like climb racks and stupid stuff like that. I've never hurt myself, and you did it, and you did the right thing, and still hurt yourself. Like, so what are these procedures for? Screw it. Like,
then my boss goes, you know, don't ever climb the shelves, but she goes, maybe you should have climbed the shelf. And I was like, Missy, I don't know, but like I said, doing the right thing though, it made everything. I might have still got hurt, but everything went like so much smoother for me. So yeah, that was just my little side note. Sorry to your story. All right.
Okay. So for 3, I answered. A time I could think of that I overwhelmed my like well-being to reach a goal is when I lived when I was living in California a couple years ago. I wanted to drive home for Christmas, and the way that my family has always done it is we just drive straight through the night. Like we don't stop. We just 24 hours in the car, just get it done. So, you know, this was probably the second time that I'd done that on my own. I had brought my boyfriend at the time with me, and he was not experienced at doing that. Obviously, not all people are. And so, I mean, it was poor weather conditions. It started snowing in outside of Albuquerque. What's that town? I don't know. But it started snowing, and I was like, okay, let me drive. You know, you're not used to this. He's a California boy. Like, he does not know how to drive in the snow. So I just wanted to get home. I just needed to be with my family, and that's all I could think about. And I totally put us both in danger. But nothing bad happened. But looking back on it, it was a high-risk situation that I put us in because I wanted to reach a certain goal. And I think the overall message I got from all of our examples was that we're willing to put our health on the line to get what we want, basically.
Yep.
Or don't put your health on the line to, you know what I mean? I don't know. Health was like the overall thing that I heard.
A health disclaimer, like
the non-slip shoe rule.
Right. Those aren't cute though. I'm not wearing that. No.
Okay, I have to wear them. They don't work. I've slipped so many times.
Hi, have you tried using Doc Martens as your non-slip shoes?
They take so long to break in that they're hard to use.
They are hard to break in, but I hear that they work great once you do.
Yep. So you put them in the freezer with a bag of water in them because the water expands and breaks in the Doc Martens for you.
Ooh.
That's smart.
Yep.
I hear what you're supposed to do is put on like really thick socks, put on the shoes, and then hair dryer the crap out of your shoes.
Wool socks work really well for it too.
All right, Ty, sorry, Becky, read.
I just said I learned so much, so you're good.
Okay, let's do number 4. And also, guys, keep in mind our time because we're really far over our time limit right now. So
yeah.
Okay.
Communication. Boom. setting a leader and communication. Boom.
Like drop. Boom.
I like it.
And
that's like there's like 5 lines. I'm like communication and set a leader.
Yes, I agree.
Yep.
I'll follow Ty's communication with on page 232 in chapter 7. There's a line that says, "While every team is a group, not every group is a team." And I think the K2 disaster could have, at the very least, lessened the death toll had all the individual groups banded together into like one cohesive, coordinated team, rather than try to remain their individual groups and just kind of help each other.
Girl, that is such a great example. Like, that is nailed it.
So I do have a question about this because I did think about this. Why, if somebody's dead, why would you go back for them?
You don't leave people behind.
That was like the saddest thing to me because all I could think about are like, nobody gets left behind or forgotten. Like all the Disney movies.
Well, like typically from what I understand is that particularly in like natural disasters and stuff, emergency personnel will try to recover bodies because they're trying to give families closure. Like it's really hard for you know, to like have like a close friend or a close family member just randomly disappear, have somebody, most likely a stranger, tell you, hey, they're dead, they're gone, that's it, and at that point you're probably going to be like, what do you mean they're dead, what do you mean they're gone, like where's their body, what happened to them, and so I think like recovering corpses plays a large part in granting closure to grieving family members. And so that's probably why they put in that effort to try to bring these people, those dead bodies, like back home. It's like, let me do this one last thing for you and your family, and that is to give your family as much closure on this as possible.
Okay, so going off of what you guys are saying about the whole group thing, I said on page 231 the escalation of commitment. Like they should have kind of recognized that because they did invest all that time, money, effort, all that. And instead of just like, cutting their losses, they should have kind of recognized, like they should have recognized when to cut their losses. Just because you put in all that time and commitment, they, like in question 3, put the goal over everything else.
Yeah.
They really, because of all the effort and time they put into it, they decided to keep going forward and dumping almost, more resources, meaning like, I guess more of the energy. And I think if they would have recognized that, they might have been like, okay, like we just keep pouring into something that's going nowhere. So
definitely.
For me, I would do preparation, more preparation. More preparation. You're going up the deadliest mountain in the world, and you don't have all your stuff. Like not enough ropes, not enough axes, not enough this, not enough that, blah, blah, blah. Preparation. You can never have enough stuff. I don't care if what you're doing. That was stupid. I don't know who decided to leave things behind, but preparation was for me. That was the first thing and the last thing I noticed. Ties with communication. He already hit on that, so I don't even need to hit that, but it was preparation for me. I don't know why on such a big excursion that all these people didn't have enough stuff to finish the job or to discontinue the job.
That makes total sense. For me, I would also agree with, obviously everything you guys said. And then I think, Becky, you mentioned it, but just like bonding, like team cohesiveness. I feel like one of the reasons we're really able to discuss these questions so in depth and that we want to just keep talking because we took the time to have our group text, even though I'm not very loud in it, but we take time to like understand each other and like we're interested in each other, like we bonded. And I think that's what keeps us like, we just want to keep going. Like we love it, but they didn't take time to do that and they suffered the consequences,
Yeah, definitely. Like I attribute a lot of our success in the first meeting due to the fact that we had the test run meeting.
Yes.
Where we literally planned a test run a few days before where we're like, okay, we're going to figure this out so that everybody knows how to access the meeting, so that we become familiar with each other. We know names to faces and faces to names. And like, I think that really helped out,
Definitely.
But I think just by going off that, like we all said, like that was like our preparation, that was like our bonding, that was us like knowing like how much effort to put in. Like it was pretty much everything that we all said into one. So like maybe we should go climb it out now.
I really don't trust Nemo to climb a mountain with.
I don't know if I don't. We did prepare in that aspect. Like we kind of like hit on everything like we all said, obviously, a more prepared and mountainy like way, but like in the sense of all those things were so important, like we hit on all of those, and we did that in a sense in preparing for our meeting. So they should like take a lesson from us.
Yeah, kudos to us.
Why, you say that you don't trust me to climb a mountain?
No, you said you avoid like high risk situations at all costs. So you'd like
Yes, I do.
you'd walk up
But-
to the mountain, be like, yeah, that's not happening.
But you can bet every penny in your bank I will bring enough rope.
And a broken down axe to like.
I will bring 2 axes just for you, Ty. One of them I will etch in the name Ty on, okay? It'll be your axe, your backup axe.
Okay, number 5. This is the one that Nemo, you said you had some like extra information that you looked up. Did you want to share that on this one?
I don't know if you'd call it expert.
Oh, I said extra, but you are an expert.
Okay, I heard
I'll give
expert,
you that.
and I was like, wait, no, that's too much pressure. Please don't.
She's leaving the mountain before we even got there.
Bye.
Somebody said mountain, and I left the group chat. Okay, so number 5 is that's the one where like why some people rise to the challenge but others don't during a crisis, right?
The Sherpas.
So I tried Googling more about just like why some people rise to the challenge during crisis and others do not, right? Unfortunately, my research was heavily drowned out by COVID-19 stuff. Because you type in crisis right now, you get COVID-19, 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 right? So it was very hard to find more generalized information regarding like what makes some people rise while others do not. So then I looked more into K2 itself specifically, trying to see if like anybody out there said anything about it. And I think it came down to 2 things. Maybe it's a combination of the 2 things. Maybe it's one over the other, right? But one of them is empathy, right? Like the Sherpa were literally hailed as heroes for their empathy, you know, that they saw people in need and they went out to help them, even at the cost of their own safety and like, you know, putting themselves at risk to like go help the people who are stranded up there and tangled in their own ropes. It's like somebody was just like, man, those people look like they need help. I'm gonna go help them. And I think that also takes a lot of like, I don't know, courage, perseverance, a lot of resilience. And then another thing is like, I think that those people just, they saw a need and then they tried to fill that need. You know, what was it, the climber, the Sherpa Pemba, knowing that, you know, there were climbers who were stranded, so he went out to help them. And then Pasang, who realized that another climber needed an ice axe and literally gave him his one and only, which ended up stranding himself in the process. Because he gave up the ice axe, he stranded himself. So he was literally like, you can go back to camp. I will just stay here, I guess. Right? And
Did he die?
Huh?
Did that person die?
No, because then somebody else came to rescue him. So it was a chain of rescuing where he was like, this person needs to get back down. He needs an ice axe to do it. Take my ice axe. Then he was there. He's like, I don't have an ice axe. I can't get back. And somebody else was like, that dude can't get back. Let me go get him. And the person that went and got him put himself like heavily at risk too, because apparently he like tied Pasang to him. And so they like went down like step by step together. And it was pretty much like if Pasang without the ice axe even slipped a little bit, he would take his rescuer with him because they were tied together. Like it was going to be a 2-for-1 deal. But it was just like that, like these people, they saw a need, you know, they realized that they could fill that need. And so they just did it.
That's how they rose to the challenge.
Yeah, you know, and it was just like, I don't know, like, can you imagine being in that situation and like the person next to you needing an ice axe and you have an ice axe? Like, do you like hide your ice axe? Or do you see their need and just be like, okay, here you go, you know, like, good luck, wish you all the best.
Did anybody else find similar results as far as how the Sherpa rose to the challenge?
So my big issue with the whole, like, the fact that they are like, these are people that are, oh my gosh, it's raining. Sorry.
It's been raining crazy in Cali.
It has not been raining at all. And all of a sudden I look up and I'm like, rain. So Sherpas actually train for like, before they can actually like run an expedition up, like, I think it's Everest is 3 years of training, of previous training and experience with other Sherpas. So like they're trained on like, they pretty much need almost EMT training to guarantee the safety of the people that they're going with. So it's like they kind of signed up for it. They kind of signed up for that like leadership role and that tactical skilled role. So I could see like why they did it. It's like firefighters running into a fire, except ice and axes. But like they're trained for long periods of time to be able to handle those situations. And also like I do have the concern of like a Sherpa should probably have stepped up and said like, there's no communication, this is not okay, we're not doing this.
Oh, I have information on that.
Yes.
Let's have the 2 other people tell us.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So like, I guess to answer like number 5. I kind of went off like what you guys said, like empathy. They saw a need. I actually really like that because that's something I didn't think of. Like they saw a need and they meant it. And what I thought was like what Ty was saying, like they were trained, so like they were experts in this type of stuff. Like they knew what to. I don't want to say necessarily what to expect, but like they were prepared for what they were going for. They knew how to handle it, and like the guy who gave away his ice axe, like I hate to say this way, but he probably wouldn't have done it if he thought he was going to need it. So like you know what I mean? Because if he dies, then he can't save anyone else. So I kind of feel like they, in a sense, like you said, like they saw a need and they put other people first. They went essentially like they knew they could handle and they put everyone else before themselves is kind of what I said. And I guess like the second part of it is while others don't, I think a lot of times people put the goal over stepping up, or they're scared. Like, I mean, I don't know about you, if I saw any of you guys dying on a mountain, like I love you guys, but I wouldn't know how to save you. I'd be like, well, if I go to rescue them, like I'm probably gonna die. So like I think some people don't just out of fear and they're not prepared. So I thought that was like kind of interesting. Overall, I think their empathy and their wanting to put others first is what makes people rise up.
And I was just going to piggyback off of everybody else's. I'm kind of with you guys. It's the empathy, and I think there's a thing with the human nature where there's just there's some people have it and some people don't, where it's just in their psyche to just jump into action. Like some people will go like, oh no, I ain't gonna do this, but there's other people who just like jump right into it. And I think that's one of the things with the Sherpas is that was not only because you can train, like Ty said, you can train to be this person, but it also boils down to your personality and your psyche. Are you going to do this in the moment that you need to do this? And some people will actually back off and some people will actually jump in. And I just think that some people have that in their mentality to do this. This is what I'm going to do. I have to do this. I don't have to do this, but I'm going to do this is their mentality. And I think that's
like naturally.
There's just a natural wanting to help people and survive. And that's
kind of like when Ty shot the EpiPen in that lady's leg. Like that was obviously just a natural reaction. He had to step in and do it. 100%. But also, I didn't know Sherpa. I didn't know exactly what Sherpa was. So thanks for looking that up and sharing that. Yeah.
I remembered what it was from Scooby-Doo.
No.
That's nice.
When they were going after the abominable snowman in Nepal.
Oh my god, I know that episode.
Dude, oh my gosh. You even go, like, how do you even think of that? I love it, honestly. I said the same as all of you guys. I think the reason that other people didn't rise up was because they were so focused on that goal of reaching the top, and they let danger overcome or whatever, put that first. And then, so the last question was, what leadership and fellowship lessons do you take from this disaster? Charles, do you want to input on that first?
Sure. What I took was listen to those who have the most knowledge about things. Also, as a follower, make sure you're prepared too. Like, you're not only is it for you, but you're also trying to make your leader look good too. So in followership, you should be prepared yourself. Even if your leader isn't prepared, prepare yourself for your team, because that's a good follower will always make their leader look good also. I also think that you need to put, and one of my things was that with this is, as a follower, you need to put away your ego. I feel like there was a lot of ego with this expedition. A lot of people were wanting to get to the top no matter what. And sometimes you just need to take a step back as a follower. And maybe if your leader's pushing you to go do something that may get you killed, maybe, question that and not follow that person to your death. So that was kind of one of my things. And I just kind of wanted to throw out there that I felt like a lot of this could have been avoided too without the corporate funding that came through with a lot of this.
Yeah.
If you guys caught that, people were trying to get the money and got themselves killed. So as a follower, sometimes that money is not as worth it as your life and your comrades. So that's my
Those are really good points.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Who else wants to wrap it up?
So I thought of a good one. Obviously, the leader, I think it's important to form that relationship with your team. Like, I know there was like a language barrier involved there, so that does complicate things. But if they knew that beforehand, like, that kind of should have been addressed. And somehow, like, I know cultures are different, but like they could have maybe came up with like some like common gestures maybe, or like words or phrases to like communicate. And as a follower, I said the same thing kind of as Charles, like, to be prepared and not afraid to speak up. But the one thing I did notice was, I think it's on page, it's on page 230, the mismanaged agreement, or that, I don't know if I'm going to say it right, like the Abilene paradox.
Oh, Abilene.
Abilene, yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting, because I'm pretty sure all of those people like agreed to go, even though deep down they're like, yo, this is a terrible idea. Like, let's, publicly agreed, but like they might have been like silently like opposing what was being said. So I kind of thought that was interesting. Like, don't fall into that just because everyone else says it. Like, just agree with it just because, but then, go behind the back, like, oh no, that's terrible. Let's not do that. So I kind of like put that in there as a follower, as to take that into mind. Like, we don't have to agree with it. It's okay to say no.
Yes.
Like,
to build off of what Becky is saying about the bonding too, in my research onto K2, here's something that's like really gonna irk you to hell and back, Becky, right? So, there's a specific season of the year that is supposed to be the safest to climb K2 because of weather conditions, okay? What happened in that year, so everybody prepares for this time of year. They're like, we're going to climb this time of year because this is the only time of year that you should really be climbing K2, okay? They get, like, not to K2, but, like, in surrounding areas to, like, the base of the mountain or something like that, right? In that time frame. But they realized that the weather conditions had yet to become optimal for climbing. So they waited. They waited, like, 2 months. Okay, you would think that in 2 months, all these teams have gathered, that at some point, they would talk to each other, coordinate some efforts, do a team bonding event, play a game, sit around the campfire or something. Nothing. So 2 months of sitting around waiting for the weather to abate. And then they climb the mountain as individual groups anyways.
I don't even have words for that. Like, you might as well make friends with everybody. Like, you're stuck there for 2 months. Yeah.
Yeah, so I definitely agree that in 2 months they probably would have at least been able to learn key words, key phrases, hand gestures of some sort, be like, maybe if like everybody could learn how to say danger in one language, it would be good. No, yes, need food, something like that, need rope. And then for my own personal answer to number 6 is that I have 2 incidences that I want to talk about regarding K2, and these are like the 2 incidences that I feel like kind of demonstrate, illustrate the lessons that I learned from this. which is that as a leader, you have to step up, and as a follower, you have to speak up. You know, step up, speak up. That's it. And that is, in the case study, they said one sentence about it, but I feel like they should have said more. And it is that the only person who had ever previously summited K2 got sick and couldn't go with them in the end.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Okay, so I looked into that, and basically everybody said that because he actually was a Sherpa. Okay, so he was one of like the mountaineering experts of the area, right? And he was also the only climber that had ever actually summited K2. So he kind of became the unofficial leader of everybody, like everybody, not just of groups of mountaineers, but literally he was the leader of the experts. He was the leaders of the Sherpas. Okay, and so then when he got sick and he couldn't summit, everybody couldn't deal with it, basically. Like nobody stepped up, nobody took over command, nobody like tried to fill his role, nobody tried to lead at that point. They were all like, we have a leader, he is the only one that has climbed this mountain, and now he's gone. What do we do? And it was a complete lack of coordination from that point, because now they have lost their leader, and nobody decided that they were going to at least try to fulfill that role. And that probably led to a lot of disaster occurring on the mountain, because like this wasn't just a leader of one of the groups, he was literally the leader that like all the groups looked up to at this point, because he was the leader of the experts, and then they lost him. And I don't know, it really felt like a moment where like we should have had an emergent leader, you know? Like even if like one of the Sherpas who hasn't climbed the mountain should have stepped up and be like, okay, this is what I've learned, this is what I've prepared for, these are the concepts, the theories, the procedures, let's do the best that we can, you know?
Yeah.
But they didn't band together, they didn't,
Yeah.
you know, they fell
lost
apart.
it. Yeah.
They absolutely fell apart. And so like, you know, I feel like you kind of have to step up at a certain point, you know, like there will be a point where you just have to step up, you have to do your best, you have to try. And it kind of felt like nobody tried to take care of this gap that they had within their mountaineering expedition. And then
Yeah, I can see that too.
Mm-hmm. And then regarding being a follower and speaking up, okay, so there's
Wait, time out. Can I stop you really quick? Because again, we're almost at 2 hours, so maybe Ty can go ahead and go, and then we'll talk about it like independently.
I just made a really bad joke about it.
Oh no.
And it literally says in quotations, "Don't go chasing summit falls."
No! Are you a dad?
Oh no.
All right, and that's Ty's response.
There are other notes, but that's the one that has stars in it. So the first note actually says, don't fall into groupthink in like situations that are large scale dangerous or high risk or hazardous, because that's where everything falls apart.
Mm-hmm.
So
Agreed.
there's my big takeaway.
That was going to be my
So,
second point too.
Mine's pretty ironic, seeing how this, I feel like I kind of let you guys down on keeping us on track on this. And the main thing I wrote was having a clear agenda. So I would say next time, if I were to lead a group again like this, I would be like, okay, like this is our time limit, which I'm pretty sure she said to say at the beginning anyways. So I think, yeah, just having a clear agenda and being on the same page and listening to others
Mm-hmm.
would have helped them out a lot.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did a great job, Sammy.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I mean, in reality, these questions have so much room for expansion.
Yes,
that
they do.
It does take a lot of
Great.
time.
Yeah. I think like you guys are like, there is so much room, and the fact is that we all did look up some stuff, so.
Yeah.
I know, and I want to hear we all want to hear what each other's like thoughts and then, you know, But okay, so let's talk about who will submit the recording.
I can try it. I can try and figure it out because I know Charles is also doing it. So I
Well,
can just.
Yeah, how about we just go with you, Ty, see what happens. If you have any issues, just shoot me a text or whatever. And I mean, like, it's doing the same thing for me. It's downloading on my computer. So if you have any problems, I can back you up.
Well, either
That's
way,
all
if
good.
you're gonna submit it to YouTube, because like I said, like Microsoft Word is still like circling in the background. I don't know what happened or why it's frozen. I can also just attach the link to the bottom because I'm gonna have to go back in and make sure I get all of your main points and stuff. So
Yeah.
Okay.
like if that's up to you guys, if you want like that kind of like backup, I don't have no problem just attaching like the word link and then having so you can like go there if it doesn't work.
Yep. Because that's all I think that's all we're going to do is just the link. That's it.
Yeah.
So who's submitting this recording?
I'll put it on YouTube once I figure out how to do that. And then I'll send Becky the link, or I'll put it in either the group chat or the other.
Okay, so Ty is officially in charge of that, and you guys are figuring out the logistics.
Yes.
If you're able to apply on Canvas, that would be easier because I'll just use my computer then to like kind of like rewind and stuff and find all the rest of the main points in.
Okay.
And then I'll submit the notes either tonight or like super early tomorrow morning.
Okay.
And Becky, your start time was 1:02 p.m. and your stop time is now, we're gonna say 2:49, just for your records. Yeah, sorry, I kept really good track of that. Just so.
Start time, like I'm afraid the notes I have are gonna go away because I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to force quit it. So.
Can you take a picture on your phone, maybe?
Oh, that's actually good. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. Or I'll just take a screenshot of the notes I have, and then obviously I think I need like pretty much 2.5 through 6. So.
Okay. And then when's the next meeting and time? So next Saturday, same time?
Yeah, it's fine.
Works for me.
Okay.
Yep.
1 p.m. next Saturday, and our leader is between who hasn't led, Becky and Ty.
I don't really care. I don't mind doing it next week if you guys want.
It's up to you.
Rochambeau.
I kick first. Just
Rochambeau that.
If we're good, honestly, next week then.
Okay, cool. And the note taker?
Either sure, I'll do it.
Awesome.
I think only you and Mimo haven't done it yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if Charles wants to do it, then he can do it. And if he doesn't want to do it, then I'll do it. So.
Okay.
So Charles, you can do next
I
week.
do it at least once, so I'll take it.
Okay, and then who wants to be in sending? I'll try to record it, and maybe we can do the same plan where there's a backup.
Yeah, that way we kind of figure out how everybody gets to figure out how Zoom works and publishing it and everything. So.
Okay, cool. Well, I really have to run. I was supposed to be somewhere about 30 minutes ago, so I'm gonna let you guys go. All right, but I love you guys. I really do.
Bye, Sammy.
Bye, guys.
All right.